Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Fleet's Random Ramblings. I've had my dinner, I've got home from work, fed the dog and the cat, had my dinner, and now we're ready to start rambling once again. I hope you're all ready for a excellent evening of entertainment, and I hope that you enjoy it as much as I enjoy creating it. Now let's go and get the Discord audience in. Hello everyone in the Discord, and welcome to Fleet's Random Ramblings once again. Number 45 now of the live ramblings. I know it's really getting on now. It's been like nearly a year since I started doing them. In fact, let me have a look. When was the oldest live ramblings? That was... good lord, when was that? That was a while ago now.
Which one?
First recorded ramblings was before I started going live with them.
This is 45, at least.
Was going... Wow, it was a year ago now. Wow. And it'll soon be 4 years of... 4 years of ramblings. It really does. It does make you think. Good lord. Also, I have not announced this because there's no guarantee of it, but Rex did want to have a catch-up with me today, so he may or may not be appearing. But I have no guarantee on that, so don't put your hopes in it.
Fair enough.
Is Fleet making false promises again?
No, I'm
Yep.
not. No, I'm not making promises. I'm just saying.
You can't keep getting away with this.
Everyone I've ever said will definitely show up has definitely shown up. Not once have I been wrong. CJ, I'm not dealing with that. Not dealing with that.
I'm not even going to include that in the list.
What did he say?
It's modern politics.
Yeah, and also more to the point, no one can know anything. OPSEC's tight as shit, and all the information anyone has is hearsay and scuttlebutt. So, yeah.
I'll include that one, CJ.
Okay. Let me make sure I need to announce this on Patreon, because that's a thing I do now. What? What has got you laughing so hilariously?
You clearly didn't hear then, but... How about these?
Just doing my admin. Give me a second, folks. Turns out...
Well, you've got a number of questions, at
Yeah, I
least.
know. They keep spiraling upwards.
Yeah, it's Fleet losing control of his life again.
Actually, gaining control.
Who knows?
Who's been teaching Fleet how to lie?
I'm an expert at lying. I'm very, very good at it.
Thank you for proving our point.
Yes, thank you for proving our point.
No, you don't understand. If I wanted to lie...
Yes, I do.
No?
I'm a professional bullshitter, Fleet.
Yeah, bullshitting and lying is two entirely
actually worked with
different
the civil
things.
service.
Okay. Let me see. So YouTube on the...
YouTubies.
There we go. And then we'll put that in the still technically Fleet Discord server for now. It's still serving its purpose. The other one's not quite ready yet.
Outrageous.
That's
Oh,
technically a question.
okay. So I think that's everything. Let me just put this to one side so I can see it whilst I'm in Discord and yet not have it block the questions on YouTube. Fucking hell, night, Jesus Christ. Alright.
How many's there?
6 so far. One of them's... Sorry, no. Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 so far.
Like,
Right.
I really hate to say it, we've got to put a cap on this guy. Otherwise,
Yeah.
half of Ramblings is
To be
just
fair,
going to be
I'm not going
him.
to say necessarily just on him, but also a case of, honestly, after a point where there is just a point where we just do not get through questions. So,
And I will point out that all of his... Knight, I'm just going to point this out. All of your questions, given the current panel, are simply answered by us all saying, we don't know.
Oh, well, I guess we'll find out. Sheesh. As I said, to be fair, they're going pretty strong here, which is strange. We're already up to...
Flipping Nora. Alright, first question of the day. Do you think the Avro Shackleton and the Nimrod are better maritime patrol aircraft than the P-2V Neptune and the P-3 Orion? No. But then again, there is really no better maritime patrol aircraft in this context. They all have long endurance, relatively decent sensors. And to be fair, the Nimrod is... Yes, the Nimrod's a maritime patrol aircraft, but it's... but the P-3 Orion is a sub-hunter, not really a maritime patrol aircraft. Yes, it does maritime patrol, but it is configured very heavily for hunting submarines. It's in the same way the Shackleton is. The Nimrod can do that job, but it's also geared for long-range maritime patrol and reconnaissance. It's a full-blown maritime patrol aircraft in the same way that the US used to operate a very large piston-engined aircraft before they retired it in favour of more carrier airborne early warning and P-3 Orion, which is not a dedicated maritime patrol aircraft. It's more of a anti-submarine platform with well, yes, it's a maritime patrol aircraft, but it's one geared towards anti-submarine warfare quite heavily. It's very good at it as well, although don't be fucking confused. An Orion, if it rocks up with Mavericks under the wing, will absolutely ruin your day. AMC Woods asks, what if there were 4 Infinity-class supercarriers at the Fall of Reach with their accompanying 10 escort frigates that they can each carry in their internal sub-bays, in addition to all the ships originally defending the planet? How does the defense of Reach go? I do not know enough about
It
Halo.
still falls.
Now,
It still falls.
Probably still falls. On the other hand, though, you get a lot more assets off-world. Like, a lot more. And also, Covenant lose a lot of quite important ships.
No, I can't see that, though.
I can. And
Because-
an Infinity-class supercarrier can take out a CCS and OCS-class supercarrier one-on-one.
One-on-one,
that-
but the issue is, it's not going to be a one-on-one.
I'm gonna give you.
Because
I'm
we're
gonna.
talking-
I'm gonna give you.
We're
Blokes.
talking tens of percents
I'm
of the
okay,
Covenant's entire fleet.
right. I'm giving you. Okay. I'm gonna. Since I don't have a horse in this race, I'm gonna give you 6 minutes to come to a consensus on this question. I've started the timer. You have 6 minutes to come to a consensus on this question. So hop to it.
Okay, so actually, overall, that from what we are aware, the Covenant in terms of the actual space battle over Reach.
Foxo, for God's
Don't plug
sake.
your mic. You've unplugged your mic again.
I know. I'm trying to fucking
So-
mod Skyrim right now.
Don't just plug it back in. But so it is canonical that apparently in the battle over Reach, 2/3 of the ships the Covenant sent were lost. Which therefore, to me, seems like if you end up bringing 4 4 Infinity class, that could actually quite sizably change the battle. And also considering these are you, and if these are, and the question is, Boxer, your mic. That's happened twice. But
Right, Dragon.
Boxer, your mic's still acting
Yeah,
up.
sorry, I've had to mute you, Foxo.
Yep.
For the quality of the
Yeah.
live stream until you
What's
fix
going
the
on
mic.
with your mic here? But if these are infinities based off what Infinity herself is, then yes, the Covenant are having a bad day. Since they are apparently based off the actual one of what she was, that means they have full Forerun attack, which is quite powerful. I genuinely, I don't know if it will affect how things go entirely, but overall, the engagements will be more in the UNSC's favor.
Is her mic better now? Dragon?
Yes.
Good.
It's the scouting force for the fleet we see at the Halo Reach game. Like, the UNSC loses to the equivalent of the Battle Cruiser Squadron at Jutland. They do damage, but once the planet's fucked, as soon as the main fleet comes in.
Oh, not again.
Because to use a bit of law that people don't like because it's Halo 4, we know that even against Forerunner ships, as in proper Forerunner ships, massive fire will bring them down. AKA the Didact. Look, I pay inflation my economy. You see, we don't talk about what I do in my spare time. Because I love cosplaying at conventions as a Russian number station.
No, so keep in mind, each Infinity can deploy 10 quite strong frigates. That's an additional 40 extra ships to the battle, which are a far higher grade. Keep in mind, these are UNSC ships with actually decent shields and MAC guns.
As if UNSC MAC guns weren't already good enough already.
These are the better ones. These are the
by
better
the time
ones.
of reach, they're not the particularly good.
They're good. No, they are underselling them there. They are pretty good. They will still go through their shields.
Yeah, but we're still
kind of the point.
We're not in the post Halo 4 era of these have Covenant alloys in and use the same power systems that energy shields use to propel rounds. We're not at that point yet.
So honestly, in general, it all depends on how they're used. If they are used properly, I actually think they probably could win the space battle. Because these ships are strong enough to split the supercarrier in two. Other ships are not that big of a threat either because of how ludicrously overpowered Infinity is.
Yeah, but we also see Infinity crippled by several smaller Covenant capital ships working together.
We see Infinity crippled because the plot demanded it.
No, I'm not talking about that Infinity being crippled. I'm talking when one energy projector platform effectively disabled it, which is in the comics before that shit show.
Like on average,
1 minute remaining.
It was specifically that if the UNSC Infinity gets taken by surprise or gets ganged up on, she fucking dies.
Mm-hmm. But with 4 of them, she's not going to get jumped on. Also, they have pinpoint slip space jump capability.
Yeah.
Which is invaluable at this point.
But to utilize it, they're going to be... yeah.
Like...
Anyway, let's move on because we've overstayed our welcome.
Yeah, not quite, but...
I'm pretty sure that was Fleet's noise of...
What would if 4 UNSC Infinity class super carriers were teleported to the Battle of Reach? How would it affect things? I personally think if they're used right, if the people on board those ships are using it correctly, they will win.
I think I agree with you that they can win the fleet that's throughout the Halo Reach game, but
No.
it's when the main fleet arrives.
I'm going right. Spyful of Punic is nothing in comparison to 4 full 4-runner grade Infinity super carriers.
Arguably the Punic's better, but that's
it's not. The Punic is straight up not better. This is a known thing.
I mean, if you go with the comic version, they're the only UNSC ships that can deploy antimatter weaponry. So
I do feel the Infinities also more than likely could. Also, if those Infinities have their full Spartan complement, that is real bad times for the Covenant.
Not really.
Yes, it is. Like, if something like 100 Spartans managed to defend Reach, give them a couple thousand.
Dragon. The whole plot of Halo Reach is 100 Spartans get pasted by the Covenant.
They do pretty well, considering the numbers they're fighting.
Yeah.
Also, we technically have, but we're waiting for Fleet to get back. It seems I don't know if he's actually there currently.
Yeah, but its entire thing is the Covenant.
Time.
Spartans get pasted.
There we go. He's there.
You've run out of time, folks. I'm sorry.
We've been waiting for you to get back.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had to deal with the dog. I'm currently home alone, so I have to deal with the dog.
That's why we continue talking, because otherwise it'd be silent.
Ah, good. I'm glad you did. Right. Okie dokie.
Penis.
No. Right. Okay, so question from YouTube. Question 1. If the RAF, British RAF Bomber Command fuel inerting systems introduced in World War II in 1944 and the heavy bombers have been adopted by the US post-World War II, how likely is it they would have become standard on all US planes, civil and military? Well, it's not really... There's no point. There's no point to adopting it. Why? What's the point? It's not like... It's not... You're not taking the sort of damage where you limp home. If you take a missile, you're dead. There's no surviving or limping home after being hit by an air-to-air or surface-to-air missile. You're dead. Your plane will have been guaranteed to lose enough of its flight performance. Yeah, to die. And on a civil aircraft, you don't need it. It's not important. You literally have the ability to dump fuel before landing / crash landing for exactly that reason, to avoid fuel fires. You don't need to purge it. You just have a little valve that goes, right, I don't need this fuel anymore. Away it goes. So there's no point adopting it. Next question.
I mean, there is, though.
Not really. Next question. Next question.
I want to get the casualty reports.
What if the Sith Empire returned during the Galactic Civil War? They get absolutely stomped on.
Yeah.
They get absolutely stomped on.
Okay, question. Doesn't the Sith Empire return anyway?
No. It doesn't.
For you, Foxo, technically speaking, because yes, and it does, but the traditional Sith Empire does not, and they would get utterly crushed.
Their ships are just not even...
Honestly...
A Victory-class Star Destroyer is going to absolutely pound a Harrower into the dust.
Yeah. The only ones that might not is the Silencer variants of the Harrower, which have a fleet-killing weapon.
But even then, the Eclipse or an executive just rocks up and goes, "Hi, heard you were talking shit."
It's not even just... Don't even bother with those fleets. Send a Bellator. One of the actually fast mobile ships. Like...
the Eclipses aren't that. The Eclipse and
they're
Executors...
They're much than a Bellator or the other Star Battle Cruisers. Like, you wouldn't even need to send the big ships. That's where you really want to rain on their parade. Like, oh, so that's your little home world? Well, push the button, boom.
Night.
I've taken the executive
Night.
decision that you do not deserve to exist.
Night. Pan Am 214 in 1963 and Transworld Airlines 800 in 1996 show why you need that system. I'm going to assume I'll just have to look those up quickly.
Those sound familiar.
Let me see. So what actually happened? Okay.
Oh, those are when the aircraft caught fire over. Where is it? The Carolinas, isn't it?
Well, either way, the aircraft that caught fire. Yeah, that's not gonna. Yeah, those are two very niche cases that it's not worth the extra cost to put it into the aircraft for just those two accidents. It's not worth it. In the grand scheme of aviation history, it's a few hundred people.
Have the ability to inert the fuel.
Like, it's a few hundred extra people that don't die. In the grand scheme of aviation history and humanity as a whole, it's not worth the extra cost.
But it is, though.
Arguably it is.
Not in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not worth me falling off a cliff.
Fleet, in the grand scheme of things, reinforced cargo bay doors weren't considered worth it for a long time. Until they had 4 different accidents caused by failing cargo bay doors.
They had more than 4. The difference is the difference
4
is,
major ones.
Yeah, the difference is there's only been 2 major aircraft in modern history destroyed by in-flight explosions by the ignition of fuel vapor. That is not enough to warrant the inclusion of a very expensive, complicated system.
Yeah,
arguably it is.
Fleet, do you want to know why less blew up like that? Because they put the fucking systems in.
And I'm pretty sure there are some forms of fuel inerting systems in a number of planes currently for civilian airlines.
Dragon, they're in all airliners because they're required by most first world countries. Because the fact is, if the engine catches fire, you need to make sure the fuel tanks don't catch fire.
You just dump the fuel. You don't need an engine. You don't need to inert the fuel tanks. Just dump the fuel.
What you do, Fleet, they inert it as well as dump it. Because do you want a trailer fire coming out of the wing mount of fuel tanks going onto the tail? Which is very important.
Honestly, I'd argue the sensors there are more important, but yeah.
It's like, you don't want burning aviation fuel on the airframe.
It'll buff out.
Yeah, it'll buff out.
Sometimes it does. Sometimes the wing decides not to be a part of the aircraft anymore.
That may be a slight issue, but ultimately we believe that the extra costs wouldn't warrant.
Yeah, Darth Sidious Hoy. There'll be Hoy at some point. I've got a lot of stuff on right now. I mean, I do mean a lot. Like, I've got a plan for an event in December. I've got a I am currently firing on 25 different cylinders at the same time. So, and I'm trying to slot things in.
These have been basically in 1996 during the flight of TW8 Flight 800. A crash was caused by the explosion in the fuel tank in the wing. Later, there was another one in 2001. After this, a number of systems have now.
What did you say?
So, yeah, they're just a thing currently.
Yeah, but it's but it's
not.
Does
it make sense for them not to be a thing?
They are clearly considered to be an important enough thing if the FAA and a number of other worldwide safety organizations have agreed these are needed.
Because civilians like not exploding.
I think most people prefer not to explode. It's a real bad part of your day if you randomly explode.
I don't know. Someone has
Probably
to be
not worth
into
it, Reaper. Discord's status hasn't been very good lately because there's been a number of issues with Discord and they just haven't been reported. There have been a couple of cut-off issues.
Well, let me see. What was I? Okay, so wait. We were here. Okay. I hyperinflated my MC economy. Asks, rate this Project Leviathan. I can't.
There's been some discussion about that in chat.
I can't really rate it because how do I put this gently? It's Drake's drum syndrome. If I'm going to be particularly blunt about it, it's a design that hasn't been built, wasn't tested, and we have no practical measurements on how it might actually function. We don't know if the shaft horsepower you've said would actually give it its design speed of 30 knots. We don't know if 70,000 tons would be enough for everything you've put on it. We don't know if it actually would draw 10 meters of water.
Theoretically speaking, this is all stuff that can be calculated, but it's all too much to do right now. And there's a reason why people are paid a lot of money to do this.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't get paid. If you'd like to pay me, please sign up to Fleet's OnlyFans.
I don't have an OnlyFans.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
I'm pretty sure Clark set one up, remember?
Clark set one up for you, remember?
Oh, well, where's the money from that, then?
Good question. Next question.
Dr. Clarke the pimp.
Anyway, you know, I bought hard alcohol tonight.
I don't think we are doing the questions from last time, Collingwood. I've got them, but I think it's just basically going through the current ones.
Yeah, like at this point, I'm gonna have to do a Drach style ramblings where I just plow through questions to the best of my ability at some point.
Must resist the urge to arrow.
But yeah, Project Leviathan.
Please continue to do so.
It's a ship that exists that is interesting, but I can't say more than that with any concrete level of thing. What do you think of the World War II Battle of Kursk? It existed. It was a bad idea. It was a bad idea.
German masterclass.
Well, like most things Germany did in World War II, the principle was sound, the execution was terrible. That pretty much sums up Germany's war effort in World War II. Sound principle, but executed horribly. The Ardennes campaign in '44, sound principle, horrible execution. Operation Citadel, sound principle, horrible execution.
There's a pretty good way of describing Nazi Germany. It's very good until people learn their niche and they beat the shit out of them for it.
Yep. So
like a Dark Souls boss.
Yeah. So Operation Citadel, for example, to give an example of what I'm saying, a large bulge in the lines surrounding the town of Kursk. Shut up. Surrounding the town of Kursk, with a large concentration of Russian troops within it.
Oh Jesus Christ! I got that. Fuck you.
With a large concentration of Russian troops within it. It's a fairly reasonable idea.
I'm Shanano from anyone from us all line.
It's a fairly sound concept to try and close in both sides of that encirclement and crush the troops within. It's a sound concept. It's basic military strategy. The problem is instead of rapidly gathering forces as quickly as they could and moving on it with a good enough force that could then be reinforced by troops that would arrive later, they try to stop and wait and make everything perfect and get the new tanks in. You know, before we do that, oh, by the way, let's bring in all the Luftwaffe and let's really bring it all in and take 6 fucking months. You get the point. And very, very clearly telegraph what's going on and enable the Russians to basically lay a trap.
Well,
and that's exactly what the Russians do. The Russians quite literally turn Citadel into a trap. They go from being slightly concerned about the Germans closing the bulge to basically so giddy with anticipation that the Germans are going to attack, they fire first.
Well, yeah. Well, also you have to remember the fact that this was the first time the Soviets really listened to the British information.
Yep.
And the British told them the exact time the Germans were going to attack.
And they started firing. Yeah, the Russians started firing like a day before. On German forming up positions, and it absolutely... Well, that basically ensured Citadel died in its crib pretty much immediately, but the Germans still went ahead anyway because they didn't really have a choice. Funny thing is, Adolf Hitler nearly cancelled the operation several times. And it was, this isn't one of those post-war Hitler did a bad. This is one of those. It's actually confirmable. Hitler thought that while the original concept was sound, they'd taken too long, and now it was going to be a disaster because they'd taken too long.
Yeah, the original quote is, when I look at the loss estimates, it makes my heart sick. Because he thought it wouldn't work. And then they realized they didn't have a fucking choice.
They did. They could have just not done the offensive and done other things instead. Not deplete those very valuable reserves of fuel, manpower, ammunition, and armor.
Yeah, but the issue is that when you read David Glantz, yeah, I know David Glantz, pretty common bitch, but you sort of realize it was a case of the Soviets were exhausting the Germans of fuel. Anyway, it was a case of you die if you attack, you die if you defend. What do you do?
Well, yeah, but you die slower if you defend.
Not necessarily. Because Army Group North has just fucking disintegrated, and you sort of need to destroy several Soviet armies to sort of stop them just going around you. Because Army Group North is gone. Army Group South is a wreck of its former self. And the Soviets are pushing there.
Yeah, basically because, well, it is for now. But literally, like the thing that sets the conditions for Citadel is a counteroffensive in late 42, early 43 that sets the conditions for Citadel. It's one of the last German successful offensives on the Russian front, the recapture of Kharkov.
Yeah, but it's a case of, as much as I'd love to rag on them, German High Command weren't fucking morons. No. Alright. The issue is, you can say what they won by their ideology and their ideological pandering. But it doesn't take a genius to realize the Soviets now getting assistance from America. We haven't been able to destroy the Red Army. And the Soviets can outmobilize us. The longer we spend bogged down in attrition on the defensive, the more that they can get the advantage.
Makes sense.
The German High Command weren't as good as people like to portray them, but they weren't stupid. No High Command was stupid. Not even the Italians.
Well, I'd say the Italian.
And that hurts to say.
I'd say the Italian High Command was better than German High Command after it got its shit together in 1940.
No,
because they
compass.
Because they actually understood, how to deal with the fact that they were on the back foot and actually not overrun their logistics and not fight stupid pitch feast battles with shit they didn't possess. And actually understood they were fuel starved.
Yeah, in return, he got an army infested by nepotism, who couldn't fight the wars they were needing to fight, and crumbled very quickly. I mean, the less said about the Italians on the Eastern Front, the better.
Well, yeah, the Italians shouldn't have been on the Eastern Front anyway.
Yeah, it's okay.
And to be fair, there weren't many of them.
But it's like, when you're doing worse than forcefully conscripted Slovaks.
The funny thing is, the Slovaks, the Slovak Fast Division did rather well on the Eastern Front during 41 and 42.
It's fast in. That's the sad irony. The Slovaks and a lot of the minor Axis powers were quite good.
Yeah, Romania, Hungary, and Slovakia did fairly well on the Eastern Front. Like, as long as they didn't encounter a dedicated Soviet tank division barreling their way, they did pretty well. Let me see, where were we? So it's YouTube question time. In regards to question 2, I don't know the answer to that one. I don't think anyone else on the panel would. I'm just going to skip that for now.
What's the question?
Question 3, again, same thing. Don't know the answer to that. I'd need a cyclic or a Clarke, and funny thing is, Clarke's not showing up yet. This is bizarre. I have my own show to myself again, not hijacked!
That can be arranged.
Do you want to hijack it, Dragon?
Question 4.
I'll get the crowbar.
Can I get in on this?
Question 4. I will actually answer, because that is just point of principle. I have to answer that. Was for the French decision to buy Grumman F4F Wildcat, Vought SB2U Vindicator, and Curtis SBC4 Helldiver, and Brewster SB2A Buccaneers more of an act of desperation to hide the fact that French aerospace industry could not produce an adequate carrier aircraft? No, it's the fact that French aerospace industry was kind of occupied, completely rebuilding the French Air Force, and trying to do so in the space of 2 years. So it was a little bit busy to, procure carrier aircraft for France's new Joffre-class carriers.
The French were broke as shit, and the Americans were selling them cheap.
Basically. And they were good, and they were good enough for European operations, to be blunt.
Yeah. And Grumman were doing a Lockheed Martin F-104 as well.
Mm-hmm.
Can't forget about that.
Yep. Also, it's an F4F Wildcat. You can't go wrong with an F4F Wildcat, especially not in 1940.
The only way you can go wrong is if you charge way more than it's worth.
And funny thing is, the Brewster. It's just it's basically that. It's like France was trying to, and to be fair, doing quite an admirable job of going from obsolete air force to semi-competent air force in the space of 2 years. But to do that, they basically had to go all cylinders firing on the land-based air force, with basically no development time spared for the Navy. Well, very little. Definitely not enough to work up modern monoplane carrier aircraft. To beginning officer, question 2. If the B-17 had Wright 2600 engines, could the upgraded B-17 make any difference in its performance and defensive capabilities? We could ask the rest of this question too if he decides to come.
Yes.
I don't know anything about that.
It will. Right. I've been comparing the engines at least, and the engine they're suggesting to be put in instead would have at minimum 1600 horsepower per engine instead of 1200 horsepower per engine, with a maximum of potentially up to 1800, which is far better than the 1200 that was found on the actual B-17s. It still won't make the B-17 better, really, but it would at least allow potentially some different performance characteristics. Like, defensive capabilities, well, what else are you going to stick in it?
If I didn't love you, I'd punch you.
Aww.
You would do so anyway.
Aww.
You try and tear out my spine. Right.
Aww.
I said, it would help it a bit because it's got more engine power. But beyond that, then there's questions. Like, at that point, you'd have to completely go into the whole design. Like, do these fit in the exact same area? We'd have to redesign the airframe, redesign the fuel tank, consider fuel consumption, bomb bay. We'd have to go full redesign characteristics, potentially.
So, Drach, do you want to learn a little secret?
I don't think it's a secret, but go on.
Do you know why the B-17 never got its engines upgraded? Unlike
Not worth
the
it. It's not worth it. In my opinion, the B-17's a piece of junk.
Yes, I mean, I know, but 8th Air Force didn't know that yet, okay?
Yes, they did.
8th Air Force refused to fucking learn for 4 years. Fight me. Me and my
I'd
homies
rather
hate
not.
it.
You're kind of scary.
She also has a gun.
Yes.
Yep.
But the B-24,
Yeah,
the
I agree.
B-17 has this minor issue. It's called the entire plane's electronics are based around those engines, which turned out to be much shitter than the manufacturers said they would be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at that point, you have to build a new plane, and that's what the B-24 is.
Yep, basically. I mean, the B-17 was. I mean, you can't take away its. I can take punishment and come home because that is. Just
you can.
Because
Fleet.
That's a myth.
You can because the British bombers were better at it, and B-17s were relatively tough until the Germans decided to start using cannon rounds against them.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden, the German B-17 started having issues.
Because what people tend to forget is, well, the B-17 survived, the B-24 survived, and the other heavy bombers survived. It's a part of the reason, I don't want to generalize too much, but a part of the reason the B-29 has such a B-17 has such a good reputation is because it had some incredibly brave crews who went into combat with an aircraft that was about a better part of a decade past its prime.
Yeah,
like the stories of the B-17 survival is, oh God, how you've been shot. How are you not dead from the crew? And it's why I fucking hate the thing, because so many brave Americans died in there.
The fact that it's comparable in terms of performance to the Wellington. And the Wellington actually outperforms it in a number of categories. And they both flew at about the same time.
So, you know.
Well, also the geodetic airframe was amazing for survivability. Those are ones where you genuinely do see the pictures of Wellingtons missing entire chunks of it, and it's still just not caring.
It was the irony of it. The Wellingtons didn't care about the cannon rounds. It cared about those annoying 7mm machine guns that had an incendiary.
It did care about the cannon rounds when it hit the crew, but yes.
Yeah, it was a case of... It was the incendiary rounds that fucked the Wellingtons over.
But, yeah, overall, I don't think the new engine... You'd have to do a complete redesign of the airframe, I think. Rex might be able to answer it better if he appears, because I believe he knows more about this, but overall...
I am surprised no Dr. Clarke.
Give him time. Sometimes
of course.
Also, did you say he's busy, isn't he? He's in a hotel.
Yeah, of course, yeah, no, he's doing moving. I have a Rabblings all to myself.
Do not
give me a moment.
Do not.
I just need to go and get in contact with some people.
You can't summon any of the big names.
No. I just need to basically put out a message on his server so that his mother sees it, so that his mother bugs him.
You wouldn't dare. That's cruel. You wouldn't dare.
Modern problems require modern solutions, I guess.
I'm not going to... I don't want to...
I'm not going to force it, but there's always solutions, Fleet.
I don't want to force Dr. Clarke in here. I'm having a nice time being the lead on my own show, for once.
You're always the lead.
Yeah, he's always the one on the leash.
No, that's you.
Anyway.
I don't know. Have you seen the way Clarke leads Fleet around at times?
Next question.
Yes,
Knight
that's to be from YouTube.
Knight 6831. So why did the Nazis use a captured fleet of 2 Harold Hafrag, 1 Jakob van Hemsrek, and 1 Konig Redente class of coast defense ships as floating AA? Simple. It's a hull. It floats. We're getting.
Have you seen the German flak barges?
You know, we're getting bombed. You know, and we've got RAF fighters going over the Netherlands and Norway and all that bit. You know, we've got these old coast defense ships that we're not going to use and we're not going to move, but are probably very handy if we strap a bunch of guns to them. You know, that's not a bad idea, Hans. What do you think? Just 20 mils and a few 88s and maybe some rapid-fire 37s if we're feeling particularly brave, and then we just anchor it somewhere where we think we're going to need extra flak firepower, and Bob's your uncle, mobile anti-aircraft battery we can move very easily with tugs. That's literally the whole reason.
To quote the TV series Lost, boat is boat, and I like boat.
So
if it's your only boat, you don't have a choice if you sing it as a boat.
Bredy Risbear, Fleet is not happy. Which insane Axis idea had a bigger impact on World War II? Japanese kamikaze planes or German super weapons? Honestly, it has to go to German super weapons, because the kamikazes, despite the impact they had on the post-war period, had that impact on the post-war period by giving the US a taste of what being under attack by anti-shipping missiles actually feels like.
Wait,
in
so
regards,
is this most useless or most useful?
Bigger impact on World War II. And note,
Just
it's very
kamikazes.
vague. No, it isn't. It's German super weapons.
It's the... It's the kamikazes.
No, it isn't. It's their impact.
No,
their impact is
one
post-war.
was a curiosity. The other was such a threat. The US changed its doctrine around its use of destroyers.
I mean, I would point out that they didn't change the outcome of the war.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, but
the Japanese
there's no
kamikaze
changing the path of that war at that point.
Yeah, no. What I mean is, the Japanese kamikazes only caused changes in doctrine. German hypothetical superweapons the Allies were hypothetically concerned about drove lines of development that had massive impact in the war, for giving the Allies the weapons they needed to really clobber the Germans. Basically, the German super weapons, quote unquote, led to actual Allied super weapons.
Like what? Because Manhattan Project not affected. The big British series of bombs. U-boats weren't under warfare.
U-boat pens were always, yeah.
Let's see. V1s, that was just mosquitoes, and oh hey, we've got working glossy meteors. Use those. I'm trying to think of what was actually invented or deployed to stop the Wunderwaffe that wasn't already in existence.
VT fuse, en masse, in large numbers, along with radar-directed surface gunnery. As in, for...
Yeah, but that's not even for kamikaze, though.
No, the V1s actually got first dibs on that. The British got first dibs on that to deal with the V1s. And then, of course, the V2s created a whole line of thinking within British and American. Like, oh, ballistic missiles are a thing that we can practically build. Let's go.
But it's a line of thinking versus what happened to USS Hancock and actually sinking shit.
Suppose this is agree to disagree.
I have a counterpoint in Fleet's favour, but not in the way I think he thinks this is going. So
bloody hell, Chad's got a point.
The Wunderwaffe had a bigger impact on the war in total because they just sucked up German resources for not much care. Like the V3, like that's just a massive pile of crap that they spend ages developing that immediately gets bombed before it does anything, like it was going to do anything anyway. And again, sort of V2, they've got a bunch of scientists that they've just locked away. Here, let's build ballistic missiles that we can fire like once a week.
And only go 200.
The V2.
And only go I've always said this as a technical achievement, the V2 rocket is incredible, but I'm sorry to say, in terms of if it had been ready before the fall of France, it might have had slightly more usage. The problem is the lack of range, really. You're looking at...
You are... Well, I do still think you are...
Like, the wonder weapons are.
Yeah.
And then you look at kamikazes and you're like, they were effective when they first came out. The US changed their doctrine to fight them. Their main counter was the mass adoption of VT shells and the use of sacrificial sacrificial radar pickets, who ended up getting just swarmed by them. It's rather unfortunate, but yeah.
Honestly, overall, I actually would rate the V2 as being a bit more effective than the kamikazes. Well, the V1 and 2 combined, I would actually say.
I wouldn't, because the V1 and 2, they blew up some civilians.
How much resources did they tie up trying to deal with them, though? Thousands of Allied bombers, hundreds of thousands of personnel in terms of anti-aircraft guns.
No, fleet. No, but no, because
they did take up a lot of bombing raids to try and deal with them, and didn't.
Yeah, but it's because most of those raids were against plants that were tangentially related to them. Because it's like,
and there was
this plant produces synthetic rubber, or this plant produces T-stuff. Okay, technically that's a bombing raid against the V2s, or it could just be the Allies didn't want the Germans to have T-stuff. oh, hey, that's a chemical plant, bomb it. Or that's a steelworks, bomb it.
There were a number of raids though against
Yeah.
the actual plants also to be considered. But,
Yeah, but
anyway.
But you get my point of it was a minuscule. It was literally 3 bomber wings.
No, it was more.
The
than
RAF
that.
dedicated to actually striking the V2.
Oh no, there was more than that.
Oh yeah,
there was
no,
one
there was
facility alone that had over 10 bombing wings assigned that had to attack it multiple times.
Peenemunda got absolutely flattened.
I'm not referring to Peenemunda.
Yeah, let me finish.
Go on.
But it was also, but it's a case of like several raids, like sure, but that applied to every other industrial target in Germany.
Well, yes, that's true, but that doesn't change. That doesn't change the fact that the aircraft were still committed to that when they could have been bombing another different industrial target, like I don't know, a Panzer IV or Panther production plant.
Take out more ball bearing plants.
I'm sorry, but are you telling me this time in the 46th raid on Schweinfurt, they will finally destroy ball bearing production?
Look, no, but
there is a facility. I can't remember its name, but there was a facility made to mass produce V2s and mass launch V2s.
That's Lackville, Saint-Omer.
It was taken out before it was ready, but then the Nazis kept rebuilding it because they realized the UK and US keep bombing it even though it's pointless. So if we keep building it, we keep distracting hundreds of bombers basically each week. If we just keep this going, it ended up being a case of that. Yeah, no, the Allies diverted far more bombers than was really needed.
And of course, they
got a facility that wasn't even being used.
They sucked up, a huge amount of resources that the Axis really couldn't afford.
Well, they were mostly just using concrete.
Yeah, it's concrete.
Concrete and labour.
Yeah, concrete. They had a lot of.
No, actually, the V2 consumed a third of Germany's fuel alcohol production.
No, I'm referring to the facility here, though.
Yeah, we're referring to but it's also the case of fuel alcohol wasn't really a priority. It was something that was nice to have, but you can't run a train on fuel alcohol at that time. Brackets effectively. Actually, can you run a train off fuel alcohol? It's like,
not really. It's got most of them.
Look, I could run a pissed off fleet. I need to talk about his anorak collection. Then he stops.
To be fair, we can easily just move on anyway.
Yeah.
The question is answered.
Yeah.
Right.
So. Fuck, so I swear to
Anyway, moving on.
Knight says, as you guys are talking about... I forgot one from Rune from YouTube. Describe every World War II power with one sentence. Me first. Japan. Sunk cost fallacy. Italy. Potential denied Mussolini. Anyone want to do Germany?
Funny mustache man.
No.
Oh no! Sorry, it's one sentence, not
overworked PR department.
That's very true.
Okay, for Germany, we were bad, and now we're bad.
Yeah. Britain, we shall never surrender.
No.
United States, build
no.
more.
The UK is not. We'll never surrender. The UK is just okay, but okay, cool tank, but I've got boat.
The US is America. Fuck yeah! It literally is in World War II.
No. What America is, it's just an ASMR audio clip of that massive Boeing factory in Michigan that was producing. That was producing a B-17 every hour.
Yeah, it literally is like the sound. It literally is just the sound of riveting machines, spanners, like heavy machinery. That literally is what the America is. ASMR clip.
And then you just have the fucking Cult Mechanicus chant in the background.
Domine patre, thibbity bibbity bibbity.
No, that's not the mechanic.
Do I look like a man who knows things? Don't answer that question.
Anyway, moving on.
I know.
Although I will admit, CJ did put a funny thing in reply to the Axis idea had bigger impact. Shut the fuck up! You don't have an M4 Sherman. Yeah, that scans. That actually does scan. AMC Woods asks, what if all F4 Phantoms in the US Air Force were replaced by F-15A or C and F-16s, while the US Navy and Marine Corps ones were replaced by F-14 Tomcat and AV-8B Harriers on a one-to-one basis? How does Vietnam go? Nope. Nope.
US Air Force.
Nope.
That is cries in the corner.
That is a nope o'clock. That is a nope o'clock from me, because that is not one butterfly. That is 25 butterflies, all flapping in unison. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot
Very,
pole.
very confused US Air Force members.
No, it's just the sound of a couple of hundred gunshots from anyone who's related to maintenance on that in the US Air Force.
The F-15 and F-16s aren't too bad.
No, that's the early F-15.
Oh.
That's the Hangar Queen F-15.
Oh, shit.
That's the we don't know how this is. We're still figuring out how it works. F-15.
Okay.
Next.
Next question from YouTube, which is 1931. As you guys are talking maritime patrol aircraft, why was the Avro Lincoln MR32 not built for the RAF? Because it would have saved money that was used to buy P2 Neptune MR1s.
Was this a Lincoln that was meant to be for maritime patrol? I presume,
It's basically the Lincoln that was before Shackleton. Probably because the Lincoln was felt not to be adequate enough, and the Neptunes can be a stopgap while you develop something better, which turned out to be Shackleton, which was just better.
Could you be referring to the Avro Lincoln 3, which was literally just turned into the Avro Shackleton?
It says the Avro Lincoln MR32.
I can find MR31, but the actual Avro Lincoln 3 was intended to initially be the maritime reconnaissance anti-submarine warfare plane, but then they just went, well, why are we calling this a Lincoln? Renamed it to the Shackleton and began work from there. So probably that's why they already had an earlier one basically with similar ideas. I don't know why they put RP3s on the out to wingtips,
so
but hey.
Next is from Brackman. AMC Woods, I don't need you checkmarking questions. Like if we need them checkmarking, we have other people that can do that. It's fine. We've got it. We've got people who can do that if we need it. Like I'm not ripping off everything from Dr. Clarke. I refuse to be that much of a hack.
Yet.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue.
Brackman, your opinion on the deal situation with UAD? Oh, I've been waiting for this question. I am not very happy. I am very, very not happy. They've released a buggy, barely functional mess for £12. If they wanted to release it for £12, it should have had no flaws, no bugs, have a matchmaking system that worked, not have my ships be basically half submerged every time I enter a battle, not have a designer that says my ship is one displacement when it's in the designer and then is another displacement when I'm actually in the main screen. Have a fleet composition that actually
a bit excessive though in some regards.
Have a fleet composition manager that actually lets me use it correctly, rather than saying you can't add more ships of this type when I have available tonnage and no thing telling me I can't add more ships. I also just am not happy with how it runs. It runs shittily. And
I do think you saying for £12 there should be absolutely no bugs is unrealistic.
No, Dragon. I'm sorry. This is an optional extra that they've added that they had in beta for ages. If it wasn't ironed out, if all the kinks weren't ironed out, it should not have been released from the beta test. Simple as that.
When was the last DLC that was released that had absolutely zero bugs?
Not to this game-breaking level of nonsense.
Oh no, there were.
Dragon, I can give you that exact answer.
Go on.
Europa Universalis for Leviathan.
I'm pretty sure that caused bugs.
No, it didn't. It broke the fucking game. difference.
That's even worse.
The point I'm
while
making.
I think it's bad, the argument is you can't necessarily say for 12 quid there should be absolutely no bugs. It makes sense that there will inevitably be. Keep in mind,
Not to this level. Not to this level.
This is a game that was never designed to have multiplayer to begin with. That they somehow got multiplayer to work. I agree. From what I've heard, the implementation is awful.
It's abysmal. It's horrific.
But what were people expecting?
Something that
Polished,
functions.
and like a somewhat polished system. Like,
Yeah, like, and especially with them running it through beta
What companies where I'm
Test.
thinking they might not be
and
this bad?
testing it. Considering that UAD has a track record of running things through betas and it mostly working correctly, when the game first released on Steam and I played the original,
That again, yeah.
do you know what?
Right.
When I bought into the alpha version of the designer and the alpha version of combat functioned better than this. That's how bad it is.
Okay. yeah,
This is
we seem to be
amusing
getting
considering how much. This is amusing how much you're cutting out.
Yeah, this is all cutting out a lot.
How the
I
hell
thought it
am
was
I
just me,
cutting
I am.
out?
It's Discord.
Oh,
Discord, like the whole call just
The
goes.
entire thing.
For God's sake.
Uh,
Oh. Well,
I
at
need
least,
my-
at least the stream will be coming through alright, since that's actually a separate thing which captures my mic separately. So that's something.
When you said for God's sake,
Oh, for God's sake!
it keeps censoring you.
Don't you know the angel Gabriel does not like you?
It better not be fucking censoring me.
Restarting the broadcast won't help on that, unfortunately.
I would point out that it's not the broadcast that's the
s-
problem. My stream audio is
it's the
going out
server
fine.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
Discord.
it's Discord. It's Discord
As-
graphics.
like I said, what it probably is whatever this voice channel server region is set to is having issues currently.
Let me see if I can get one of the lads to change
Yeah, it's
it.
like Discord has been under cyber attack pretty regularly.
Wow,
Ask. Wow.
the Russians are doing things.
Well, it's either the Russians or it's the Chinese, and I
Oh,
think it's
no.
the Chinese.
Oh no, the Chinese can't attack. The Chinese can't cyber attack Discord. How will the members of the Chinese Communist Party conduct their pedo meetings without Discord?
Easy, Zoom,
Zoom and others.
Skype. They
Like,
still use Skype. Of course, they still use Skype.
Honestly, the UAD multiplayer would be nice if it was better. On the other hand, this is about as unfortunately what I was expecting.
Yeah,
It's a
it
case
was.
of, it's shit. Just leave it there.
Yeah, I was
I would have
expecting.
loved this to be better. Like, if
I was
considering the fact that
expecting
they've also
some
confirmed
flaws.
There's not going to be any campaign.
What?
They've confirmed they're no longer working on multiplayer, from what I've heard.
They have done this, and then they're not even going
That's
to give us
from
a
what
multiplayer campaign. I am
what I've
tempted
heard,
to
yeah.
request a refund at that point because
You
I
can't. It's. I don't think you can. And you can't because they never promised a campaign for multiplayer. And it's a DLC. You can't get a refund.
that's
You can.
that is actually one of the that is
they get-
really
Apparently,
really-
apparently, Spiteful. So apparently, you might be able to, but
Yeah, you can
like,
get refunds with DLCs.
Their Steam's usually a bit iffy, but if they can't, then
Yeah,
you should.
they're iffy, but
yeah,
you can.
With
It's possible.
games, Steam requires a specific reason and a specific break of TOS to refund DLCs.
And I suppose complaining about the bugginess
If you say
is
it's
probably
you're
worth it.
saying it's completely buggy is probably the best.
But
Yeah,
it's a
no
case of-
plans. Developer, no plans to implement co-op campaign. Best implementation of any features possible.
best
uh,
information of any feature
Never
in the game.
liked the idea. We've never liked co-op campaigns and strategy games. We've never personally spent hours. We've spent hours in them. We don't believe that we have the skills necessary to make it in the near or long-term future. Implementation was never mentioned by us in any form, as we have zero experience. We never planned to add it. We don't actually want to work on co-op in any form. Their current multiplayer goals provide opportunity for players to fight against their friends. The price pays for the servers as multiplayer server base, which allows to remove cheats and hacks as game logic. Quote Brackman, who's posted a actual thing from the Game Lab devs.
That's actually disgusting.
Well,
that entire message
yes,
is a
and,
slap in the
like,
face to
I
the
disagree
entire.
with a number of parts about it.
Yeah,
but
that's a slap in the face to the community. A huge slap in the face to the community. We didn't want multiplayer random battles. We wanted multiplayer campaigns.
No, I was more than happy for this because it lets me test designs against friends and actually fight with silly designs and make up stupid rules.
But there's no
campaign would be nice,
there's no
but not what I was
logic behind the
expecting.
designs. It's a useless piece of junk.
It's called you make up your own rule.
Okay, yeah. Counterpoint, Fleet. The campaign barely works as it is.
Well, yeah. To be fair, there's a reason.
You want to try making that shit multiplayer?
There's a reason why I've stuck with. There's a reason why I've stopped playing UAD and have gone to Rule the Waves. I came back hoping that they could.
I at least prefer 3D models.
Yeah. I would prefer 3D models because if the game actually let me build ships that were even that were close to being somewhat accurate.
You can get a number of ships that are close to historical. Like Drach's done it a couple of times, and Visual Clarke's done it a few times. You can do a number of historical designs, but also there's a number of times where you can't. It's hit or miss.
Fleet's gonna go.
The lag is a big problem I find there, Collingwood. Like, also the fact that it takes like 30 minutes for the campaign to even boot up for me.
Christ,
what
is?
Why
can my
Right, Foxer, before you say my computer's awful, people with better computers than I can take 10 to 30 minutes as well. It's just in general.
Why can my horrible?
Good question.
Why can my Steam powered MacGuffin boot it in a minute and a half? I can boot the UAD campaign in a minute and a half. Why can it do that?
It's partly because for a new campaign. It's partly because the way they generate it, I think, is a bit silly as well.
Right. Okay.
Moving on.
Yeah, I made an announcement not to buy it in the UAD chat when it came out. And I stand by that announcement.
I'm far more. I've got far better things to spend money on, like Fate's Day Night or Spartans 2.
So what is next? 96831 asks, what did the Royal Navy use the one Vought XF4U3B Corsair that was built for them? Honestly, at a guess, just probably testing, since they only bought one. And then I'll answer this because it's related to the Corsair again. Did the RN ever have plans to use the Vought F4U4B Corsair? I don't think so, because by that point you have things like the Sea Tempest coming on stream and other naval aircraft of that nature. But you've basically got aircraft that aren't Seafires. Aren't going to break apart on landing.
Confirm, sorry?
The F4UB Corsair, the later version of the Corsair.
F4UB, right? Because we did get a number of the F4Us.
Yes, we did, but not the 4Bs.
Likely because we didn't need them because we had our own planes in development.
That's literally what I said.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think.
Okay, where are we now?
Apparently, most of the UK-based ones were pushed over the carriers into the sea off Moreton Bay in Brisbane. Because due to Britain not being able to pay them off, they got lost.
Yeah, they were shot down by those famous Japanese aircraft in...
Nah. I'm sorry, the Emus got them.
Emu's got him, mate.
Oh.
Emu's got him, mate. Mate, don't question it. Emu's got him. Emu's got him, mate. That's all on the Barbie, mate. With the Emus. Yeah, Emu's on the Barbie. Yeah,
Dragon. And people say I'm the racist one.
How is that racist? Australians aren't a race, first of all. They're a culture.
Can we shoot Fleet? Okay, right. Get the rifle.
There are Aboriginal Australians, but that's a different thing entirely.
Anyway, moving swiftly along.
Where were we? Oh, sweet. Oh, this is a nice one.
This should be a simple
one. Typical gunnery officer asks, which modern-day naval gun that is above 100 meters size has the best rate of fire and reliability? Simple. The US 5-inch. Reliable, good rate of fire. It's just good. It's just good, and it'll cycle round after round after round after round.
There's a very good rule if you want some if you want the best in the modern world, go to America.
I will point out this is a joint tie with the Otto Malera 127, which is basically just another modern Western 5-inch naval gun.
Except it's made by the Italians.
Which, in the post-war environment, means, yes, this naval gun can basically be put through hell, and it will still work for you. Because the Italians got really good at making modern naval guns really quick.
Or the case of a lot of Europe wanted to stop buying from America, so they got a lot of fucking money to make it.
And hey, Otto Malera 3 and 5-inch guns are just nice guns. They just work.
I see you're quoting Todd Howard now, are we?
No, I'm not quoting Todd Howard. That hack quotes me.
It just works, though.
Shut up. Anyway.
Little lies, money flows.
Anyway, next question from Knight. Hey, no one's asking other questions on YouTube, so if Knight wants to keep asking questions, I'll let him. If no one else is asking questions on YouTube, then
everyone, go.
I don't have a problem.
Ask questions on YouTube.
Do we know what model of the FAF Bearcat was to become the Canadian Car and Foundry FV4 Bearcat? Not off the top of my head, and I don't probably know. Knight says the British 4.5-inch Mark 8 was
niche aircraft stuff. Go to Rex's hangar.
Yep.
We are not the people for this.
The British 4.5 Mark 8 was a good gun. Sea Dollars will probably tell you that the 4.5 Mark 8 is a good gun, but there's a reason why we're moving to what is basically the American 5-inch for our new frigates and destroyers. The 4.5 is, well, yes, they're cheap, but also it's a better gun. I'm sorry.
No, it's because we're cheap. No, it's because we're kind of broke.
It is also a better gun, though. It is also a better gun than the.
Yes, but I don't think that's
cheap
why they're
and
swapping
no
to it.
money. It's the cheap and
Right.
no money.
Right, Lee, just because something's good does not mean you're buying it because it's good. We're buying it because it's cheap and it's a positive bonus that it's good.
After all, we bought the fucking Warrior.
Yeah, that's a fair. Yeah, that's a.
Uh,
Yeah, look. If we talk about UK procurement, I'm liable to go and grab a shotgun and march on Whitehall, probably with everyone else at my back, and probably.
Vickers for dying off.
No, I want to look. Monarchist restoration now. Take the power out of the hands of the stupid politicians.
There's some discussion apparently that there might actually be a revival of the old Vickers Armstrong factory in Newcastle.
Oh,
We swear this won't actually happen. We swear this will actually happen. Looks at government. Probably not.
yeah. Oh, you never know.
Hey, you want a government that can't keep the fucking lights on properly to reopen that plant?
What are you talking?
Yes.
You do realise that Labour.
Just a seed from the rest of the country. Fine,
Yeah,
we'll do it ourselves.
And I'm not talking about Labour being shit. I'm talking the decade and a half of austerity damage.
Oh no, I more say like the multiple decades of damage.
Yeah.
I would point out the fact that Labour have only been in for what, a month? So it's
Yeah,
been early days yet.
Right,
But
without going into politics,
that's
they've
what
not
we
been
were
setting a
complaining
good.
about.
They've not been setting a good thing. But yeah, it
That's
is more a
what
case
we're
of
complaining
we've had a
about.
lot of we've had a lot of decades of constant neglect, basically,
Welcome to
in
a West.
the armed forces and the thing.
I am aware of that, Dragon. Don't remind me of the loss of all 24 of the Type 45s. Don't remind me of the loss of Cato bar carriers. Don't remind me of the loss of multiple different MacGuffins. I know I keep having it constantly bashed into my skull by the Americans whenever they come on ramblings. Constantly! I do not need another sodding reminder that the Dutch have a better fleet than we do!
That's debatable, but hey,
You get the point.
I'm sorry, are you not a fan of the Dutch? Who they kind of need the fleet though, because they're underwater. It's like, what's going to happen to all the Dutch people in the Netherlands when one of the polders break and the entirety of the Netherlands goes underwater? Like,
We'll just raise the ground up with the buildings.
Yeah,
it's going to be like those scenes from America when Florida
You
floods again.
You haven't seen the Railroad Tycoon 3 intro to New Europe. That shit's wild. Like, there's a scenario in Railroad Tycoon 3 where where the Dutch, who have been living on floating atolls, start building dikes again. And they quite literally build dikes a mile high and pump out the entirety of Europe after global
Netherlands
warming.
about to become happy. You know, if the Netherlands do that, I'll actually give them credit for something.
And the funniest thing is, they also pump out the UK as well for reasons I don't fully understand. And the capital's Sheffield.
Can I give you a hint? We don't care about your anorak collection.
Foxo,
Some do.
Please.
Foxo, I'm going to yeet you into Dragon's bedroom and then lock you there.
She will chew through the walls very quickly, and B, that's a very quick way to get her to come back with chains to tie you up.
I thought she'd be glad of some alone time.
We get enough of that.
In the mood. Yeah.
We get enough of that.
Anyway, once again, swiftly moving forwards.
Oh.
More butterflies for you.
AMC Woods. In short, no. I'm not even going to read that question out because that is an entire timeline's worth of nope. No.
To be fair, the next one for Discord's also not exactly great.
Actually, no, it's fairly interesting. CJ05 asks, do you think you could refit a World War II battleship to run on poop? Well, here's the thing. Dried feces, whether in animal form or from humans, is a fairly good fire starter. It doesn't have a lot of thermal energy, however. It's the closest thing we have to effective levels of that is peat, which comes from peat marshes. I mean, the Irish used to run power stations on peat, which is basically either
Used to?
No, yeah, they've closed them down now. The Board Namona's closed down the last of the peat railways, and they were supplying the last of the power stations.
Yeah, because it's not done by railways anymore.
Heresy.
I fucking love peat.
It's done by trucks.
Why?
This is like the whole thing of powering the Death Star on Twinkies.
They had a dedicated fucking 3-foot railway network that kept lorries off the road. Why would you get rid of it?
Right, okay.
Right.
Have you ever seen a peat bog marsh?
Yes, I'm aware, Foxo.
Are you aware that those fuckers move?
Yes.
Are you aware rails do not like moving?
Considering...
No, right. A peat bog marsh is a large area, and you mine out a small square of it as peat marsh, right? Then you fill it with organic material, you wait a decade as it compresses, then you go and dig the area up. It's like crop rotation.
Yes.
The issue is that they're running into is, especially in Western Ireland, the lesser populated areas, is that these peat bog marshes are so big. We're talking the mining sites are getting to be tens of miles away from the railways.
Oh,
and the railways are stinking.
Oh, so they can't keep up. It's not like it's basically it's not down to. It's okay. That's different. That's not what.
Yeah.
Fair enough. That's
it used to be a case of every decade they would make an entire section with the railway again.
Yeah, and then of course, because basically what they do is they had ballasted sections that were basically permanent, that were towards the plants and the power stations, and then every time the peat bog moved, they'd relay the forward sections of track with temporary track that they'd basically trench railway principle from the First World War, except peat bog.
But do you know the best thing about peat bog marshes?
It's kind of hard to keep the rails to stay up.
No. Yeah, those ballasts are temporary.
Yeah, I know.
Because imagine a massive sinkhole.
Well, no, they don't ballast.
They
didn't ballast the sections right nearest the bogs. They only ballasted the sections that were semi-permanent near the power stations.
But right. A fun fact about bog marshes and why you have to be incredibly careful around them. The actual surface mineable bit of the peat bog marsh, it's a lot like an iceberg.
I've not mentioned. One second.
About 15 feet under the ground. It'll extend about 30% beyond its upper borders. So when you build on that normal ground, whatever you build there will slowly sink.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah, you're right.
It's not a peat bog marsh.
Yeah, you're right. I hate it when you're right, but in this particular occasion, I really can't
I grew up on stories about places that don't look like marshes, but if you step in the wrong place, you can fall into air chambers that are like 3 times the size of you, about 20 feet underground, and they will never find your bodies.
Christ.
Until about like numerous tens of thousands of years later, as a mummy.
A neo-Dutch expedition from the newly pumped out Netherlands comes to the Irish bog marshes.
It's like,
I mean, we have enough experience with those here.
oh no! Do you know the
Yeah,
worst
their
thing
own
about?
peat
Do you know
bogs.
the thing about the Eastern Irish bog marshes?
They're populated by the IRA.
No, that several of them are that big. They're under the Atlantic Ocean.
What?
Because of how densely, or because of how they're set up, the bog exists under salt water. Because everything in the water, and because it's like a almost skin-like layer it forms, they were above water a couple of thousand years ago. They flooded as sea levels have risen, and the bogs haven't cared.
Oh. Wow.
So occasionally the Republic of Ireland just finds entire shipwrecks in underwater bog marshes.
Oh my goodness.
Because recently they found a almost perfectly preserved 9th century Scandinavian ship.
Nice. It's beautiful. You'd love to see it. Right. Okay. Was that a Discord question or a YouTube? That was a Discord
That was
question.
a Discord.
But yes, to go back to it, yes, you technically could run a ship on feces.
Debatable. But
No.
yeah.
You technically could. It just wouldn't be very efficient, and you'd get like
Yeah, but that's like the whole argument of you can run the Death Star off Twinkies.
No, it's not. It's not. It's not
It
the
is.
same thing.
Because because of the potential energy they have in them. Like,
No, it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing because one of those is trying to run a vessel that has an antimatter reactor off fucking Twinkies. The other is putting less efficient burnables in a firebox.
which is also going to completely clog it all up. You're not going to actually be able to provide, unless you're completely redesigning it, you're not actually going to be able to provide enough of it to burn at a fast enough rate.
Well, I would assume you would be redesigning it because, you know...
Also, now I have to question, where are you getting enough of this fuel? Yes, I'm... Right. Right.
Do you know... Dragon, manure exists, and there's enough of that lying
you realize
around.
how you're going to have to put that into an engine to get it to work, to power a ship.
No. I'm
Talking
sorry.
scale here.
I'm sorry. Are we talking about doing the equivalent of getting a hose pipe from Abu Dhabi that doesn't have a functional sewer system and just hosing it into this train?
No, of course not. We're talking. You'd have to condense.
Yes, I see it.
So you'd have to condense the manure into probably bricks or briquettes, dry it, and then pack those briquettes aboard ship. And in theory, if you burned enough of them, you'd be able to at least generate basic pressure for movement. But that's it. But that's about it. Yes, you could run a ship, but you wouldn't be getting anywhere like full
right.
performance.
If we're going off the one that they've tried to provide, which is a Peruvian hospital ship, apparently yes, you can do it. But again, I'm a little curious of how they're apparently doing this, considering also how little that thing weighs, and also its actual performance characteristics using apparently llama dung.
Like I said, it's not
no,
gonna. It's
10
not.
knots is pretty bad for that ship, though, CJ. If you think about it.
Yes, of course it is, but you're not. Of course it is. What were you expecting? Miracles? No one said it was. No one said these ships were going to be fast or bloody breaking world speed records. Is it physically possible? Yes, you can.
I would say that'd be a pretty shit way to lose the speed.
Oh, for fuck's sake, Foxo, no! Bad Foxo, get in the hole.
Yet fleeter of.
Oh, for fuck's sake, I give up. Next is a huge question. Why did the RAF use Curtiss SBC-4 Cleveland Mark 1s as ground trainers only? Let me look up a SBC Cleveland Mark 1, because I don't know what that is. Oh, really quite simple. Because he's talking about the early model Helldowers with biplane wings, because they were less effective than the Blackbird Skewer, and the army had no need of dive bombers. So, what are we going to do with all these aircraft? Well, we need to train ground crews on how to bomb up aircraft safely and effectively. And it's better to do that with either running engines or an aircraft that can move around to wherever we need to go. Oh, we've got these. Cool. Basically, I think is the reason for that. That was a really nice short question. Your typical gunnery officer. Thoughts on people calling the P-47 a mediocre at best fighter? They said that as a ground attacker, the Thunderbolt is a great aircraft for the role, but as a fighter it lacked performance as a true fighter compared to the Spitfire and the FW-190. People have been roasting about the P-47's big size, and the P-47 can only compensate on its survivability, 850 cals and a powerful engine. But other than that, it has worse climb rate, turn rate, high altitude performance, and engine retention compared to the Spitfire and FW-190. Breathe.
Courses next.
To be fair, I would say P-47 is a mediocre fighter. Because it's not...
It's not a fighter, it's an interceptor. Designed as an interceptor. Built as an interceptor.
It's
very good at
the US classed it as a fighter bomber, as I recall. Like,
no, it was
has a very specific role.
No, it was designed and built as an interceptor.
I said designated a fighter bomber.
Only after a while. Not till actually fairly late in the war. Not till 43, I think.
Pretty quickly for the US actually being involved in anything they did.
No.
It was a case of,
your argument there is, it was late into the war, considering it was only introduced to US service in November 42.
The fact that it had a year...
If you're saying 43, it's pretty quick.
It did also rack up fairly good kill counts against Axis fighter aircraft.
Only that were low energy on the deck.
No, we have kills against aircraft at high altitude. BF-109s and
Even then, though, you've got better plane. Even then, though, you have better planes for that job. Like it is a
obviously
heavy and underpowered plane overall.
No, Dragon. The issue is that it's heavy. It doesn't turn well. It's not the best climber, but it's got a fucking monster of an engine.
And the paddle props, if it's got them.
And it's built like a brick shithouse.
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, it was designed, as far as I'm aware, and this is not my area of expertise, so don't stab me. It was built as kind of... How do I say this?
I don't know. Just cover for me. I'll be back in 3 minutes. Got to check on the animals.
It was, as far as I'm aware, chat, it's so much to do with it being protected against typical bomber defense weaponry. But yeah, it's a particularly ugly aircraft. Don't get me wrong. Like, compare it to other American aircraft, it's a lot like the inbred fishman of Innsmouth. Yes, it can beat the shit out of you, it's just not pretty or good looking. Or particularly...
like,
it's the bomb.
Considering how heavy it is, I would say it is relatively underpowered for its weight category. To be fair, it's not exactly the prettiest looking plane, Collingwood. It gets the job done, but it's definitely function over form. Try it. Many people have tried to kill me before. If you succeed, who knows? Maybe you'll get a cookie or something.
If you succeed, I'll fucking murder you. Bitch ass motherfuckers dare touch my dragon.
Right, keep in mind...
Good point, CJ.
All right.
He's a family man who has stated he'll never shoot anyone for hire. And from what I've heard from interviews, he's a really nice bloke to talk to.
So, part of the reason why I say it's underpowered for its weight category is it has a 2,000 horsepower engine at a basic weight of 10,000 pounds. Its competitors are using 1,500 horsepower engines. Yes, it is. I'm pretty sure, am I right? P47D, Pratt & Whitney has a 2,000 horsepower engine. It's the R2800 on average. Hey, if you got something that can drive me better, I'll gladly have. But versus a Spitfire or others that have it, on average have 1,500 at only 5,000 pounds of weight. It's literally twice as heavy as most of the other fighters that this was comparing it to, with an engine that only got 1/3 of an extra horsepower.
Yeah, but it's also the caveat of it got that power at all altitudes.
Which Merlin are you talking about, Spiteful? Because a number of the ones, especially if we go for Mark 5B, has 40. But the Mark 5B, which uses the Rolls-Royce Merlin 45, has 1,470 horsepower. For instance, if you go off the problem is if you want to go off original Merlin, then you're looking at 740 horsepower. So, that's a bit semantics, in my opinion.
Right. Okay. All right.
An engine designed before the war.
Yeah. Like.
Okay. Right. Lads, and lass, singular. We really need to keep cracking on.
If we're going off same year, then once again, it's still you're going off basically Spitfire 5, if not better.
Okay. YouTube question now. 1931. So when? Okay, I can't answer. So for the question regarding the 450 Helldiver Mark 1s, which carriers they were intended for, I don't know the answer to that one. I don't think anyone else will. I'll come back to that if Rex appears. He might know. But since I can't answer that one, I would go to Commandant Galileo. How would you respond to the battle over Camp Kittimir in Star Trek VI, assuming you are in command of either the Excelsior or the Enterprise?
Sorry, say that again.
How would you respond to the battle over Camp Kittimir in Star Trek VI, assuming you're in command of either the Excelsior or the Enterprise? I am not going to. I resign. I am not taking over from Sulu or Kirk. They are far better, more competent officers than me, and I can't do in any realistic way better than they did under the circumstances.
So this is referring to the final battle. It's just like they call it Camp Kittimir, and is a bit. And so we're meant to be taking control of one of the ships at the time.
Yeah, you can't do better than they did during the actual battle. Not really. Not
you can.
Not given the information they had at hand.
So, first of all, you make use of the fact that the Excelsior is a far more modern ship with a far more powerful set of sensors. Get those constant high power beaming. Also, Excelsior class have multiple phaser ball turrets at this point in time. Have them firing like mental, disrupt the enemy attack patterns. All while you basically are providing the Enterprise cover to get the emission-seeking torpedo functioning. The Excelsior has also got far more powerful engines, so it can basically run rings around a K-22 type bird of prey. And even if we're going off the 23 type bird of prey, we also still have other advantages there. In fact, this also class was known to have a number of flaws where it had to divert engine power from it. This actually was brought up recently in a series of books a while ago. Where are you? Technical manual. So yes, they're probably going to be using Talon Strike torpedoes as well. Or the Pak Peng class torpedo.
Oh my god, the mannequin pronouncing Klingon were doomed.
Of course I can! No, it's not a one-off, actually, Collingwood. There was actually a fleet of at least 50 of them made, and later more were produced. This ended up being part of... It's not called the Ghost Fleet Offensive, but to borrow that term, because it's actually a pretty cool term, In the Star Trek Prey series, the Chang's disgraced descendants make use of them to attack the Federation again.
For fuck's sake. I can respect Chang as an officer, but he does have some weird motivations.
So basically, you need to make use of the fact that the Excelsior is a far more modern and powerful vessel. Same thing for the Enterprise. It was not firing its phasers when it really should be. If we take, for example, Star Trek Nemesis, when fighting a cloaked ship, one of the best things to do is genuinely just fire randomly. Because it becomes a lot harder to maneuver when there's high-intensity phaser beams coming at you from almost every direction. Also, potentially speaking, if we're being really tricky here, you load up torpedoes with either proxy fuse, or we give them a timed detonation fuse and literally use them as basically almost depth charges. Fire them out and boom. The Excelsior on average has at least 4 torpedo tubes, 2 fore, 2 aft. Connie has at least 2 fore. 6 torpedo tubes firing at least. Keep in mind these are also automated reloadings, so you can get a torpedo out every couple of seconds. That's probably how you do it. While having Scotty and whoever else is getting a mission-seeking torpedo. How does proxy fuse work? Honestly, good question. But I was more meaning probably time fuse would probably be best, but the proxy would help. Being on the Enterprise D, actually, it's arguably easier for the originals, because the TMP era don't use phaser strips; they use phaser ball turrets. The Constitution alone has 6 of them on the saucer on their ventral and dorsal areas, so that's at least 6 emitters you can.
Fuck, we lost Dragon.
Isn't the Enterprise in its point where 7 people ran off with it? This is a fully crewed Constitution 3 class starship, Enterprise 3 subtype.
Oh, sweet Jesus. We get it, you know your shit.
What? There's only 7 variants of the Constitution class?
Oh, sweet Jesus, Dragon, I get it. For God's sake, don't make me feel any worse than I already do.
Wait. Are you telling me Dragon knows his shit in the same way you know your shit, Fleet?
That's not what I meant, Foxo.
Whoosh.
He's making a joke.
I know, and it went right over the top of my head. I even heard the whooshing sound.
Yeah, why do you think she said what do you think she said whoosh? Oh, you might fuck it.
Anyway, so we have a very detailed analysis there of the... There you go, more than you ever wanted to know about the battle at Camp Kiddamere.
3, 4, 5, 6. Correction! There's actually 11 variants of Constitutions.
Oh, for flip's sake.
Dragon! Shut.
Hey, I have to correct myself if I get something wrong.
Brackman asks, and I've actually been looking forward to this question, how can you set up a defense in depth for the Pacific if you have control of the Japanese Navy for the Second World War? And would it have been better than the decisive battle doctrine they had historically? Okay. Well, first things first, if I'm running basically a defense in depth style for the Japanese Navy, first things first, you still have to open with Pearl Harbor. That's basically something you've got to do. But what I do want to do is I want to focus less about damaging the standards, although I do still want to put some bombs into them if I can. I want to focus more on damaging and destroying dry dock infrastructure. Not the fuel tanks. You can't destroy the fuel tanks at Pearl Harbor. It's not a realistic objective. But destroy the dockside cranes, attack the dry docks, basically make it as hard as possible to reset the damage I've done at Pearl Harbor and refloat any ships that are refloatable. Then what I want to do is I still want to establish my tripwires, so things like Wake Island, that sort of thing, establish those tripwires. And then Midway... Midway's an interesting one because
You don't really have a choice.
You don't really have a choice. It's a fantastically positioned airfield. It's a great way to project power in the Central Pacific. We just need to not telegraph it as hard. Here's the thing to remember: in the aftermath of Pearl Harbor, I have more carriers. I have more capital ships. I hold all the cards. So, funnily enough, like I need to keep delivering body blow after body, because I know I'm going to be stopped at some point. I have to keep delivering a hammer blow after hammer blow to push back the cessation of offensive operations, basically. And keep doing it. If I'm doing midway, given Japan's ability to generate strike packages from numerous carriers, you're probably looking at me keeping 2 carriers in reserve, almost. And instead looking at generating strikes from 2 of my carriers, while keeping 2 of my carriers with aircraft prepped for naval strike, so that if we do detect the American carriers, we can deal with them. I will also try, if I can, keep a dedicated high-low cap at midway. So, because the Japanese are all about their instructions, say 1 squadron of aircraft stays high, and you stay high, regardless of what's going on, and 1 squadron of zeros stays low, and you stay low, regardless of what's going on. That should be enough to catch the SBDs and the Devastators. Or at least give me enough warning of the SBDs coming in as the zeros dive after them to enable my ships to put their rudders hard over and try and reduce any hits they take. And also, not having my hangars full of aircraft being warmed up and bombs being switched will probably help reduce the damage to, if not manageable, but possibly not completely destructive levels of death. Once I've taken Midway, because I will be taking Midway, like I know a lot of people say about, Midway not being takeable, not with the forces the Japanese are going to bring. You've basically got to bring more stuff to bear, but the Japanese can do it if we know what's going to be happening. We've got the battleships, we've got the stuff for shore bombardment. We just need to bring more metal, specifically some of those lovely Japanese LSTs. Bring some Hargos, bring some Chihas, and Foxo your mic.
Fixed it.
And
why would you bring Foxo's mic?
Funny guy, very funny. And then basically just you've basically got to shock and awe the island. You've got to bring flamethrowers, bring those Japanese flame tanks they had. You've basically got to overwhelm the island in an hour with shore bombardment support, possibly with ships firing over open sight at point targets. Once you've got that, you basically retire the IJN to the home islands for repairs. You form up a fast squadron consisting of Yamato, Musashi, Shinano when she's ready, and Nagato and Mutsu, which is your 26 knot fast battle squadron. You form up a fast group of capital ships, which is your Congos, which are going to be very active across, basically supporting operations in Guadalcanal, etc. Those operations. And you also form up a reserve force, which are the 24 knot Fusos and Isseis. And what you do is you assign the Congos with the Fusos and Isseis to work in the Guadalcanal campaign. So just try and absolutely overmatch them by using, and also send the light carriers down with them so that every sortie has cover from zeros. So you can operate in the daytime, even if Henderson Field exists, because you've got cover from light carriers. Probably Rougeau would provide that. Just stack Rougeau with zeros and have her provide fighter cover for the Congos, and use some of the slower 24 knot light carriers to cover the Fusos and Isseis, again stacked with zeros. Again, the whole point of seizing Guadalcanal is to provide another tripwire against attack from the south, and another buffer for the Dutch East Indies. Obviously, defense in depth Pacific, I am gonna basically be once Shinano and her half-sister are done, because obviously I will be laying down Shinano's half-sister, because I can realistically have her, if she's late, because she was laid down. If I keep building her, I can have her probably by 44. So Shinano comes in late 42 if she's completed as a battleship, and then Shinano's sister, which is unnamed, will come in 44. I think it's before Yamato class, which is actually what I need. Then you obviously got Taiho coming. I'm definitely going to go with the emergency builds. So I'm not going to build... I'm going to stick with Japan's plan. We're going to build the Unryus because we need them. I'm going to obviously immediately start flight deck rotations. So pilots will be being rotated back, probably 20% of each squadron after 3. It'll basically go 6 months on the carrier, 6 months back at home. And obviously, who goes home is basically, via lot from the experienced squadrons. Really start generating more pilots, because Japan, we can build the airframes, we can build the flight decks, we need to generate the pilots. Decent pilots as well. If I'm going to do defense in...
fourth Yamato?
Yeah, we need the fourth Yamato, absolutely. We absolutely need the fourth Yamato. Because what the thing is, you need the 4 Yamatos for, is you basically need loss absorption, basically. Because...
Well, my thought is 3 Yamatos gives you the ability to cycle out at least one of them. My thought is more, number 111 takes up a vast dockyard that could be used for something more useful.
Not really.
I would rather have a purpose-built carrier than a converted carrier.
We've got the Unryus coming down the line. Those purpose-built carriers are coming down the line.
We need more anti-sub escorts. We need more cruisers and middle destroyers, and more carriers is always like. I don't think you need a conversion battleship to be on a carrier.
What are you talking about? Conversion? I'm not converting anything.
So what, you're having now 4 why do you need 4 Yamato class?
Why don't I of course I want 4 Yamato class
because you need other ships more.
I can get the other ships as well.
No, you can't. You've got limited dockyards.
Yeah, but the successor to... Okay. Personally, we've got the... So Shinano's a given. She's too far advanced to stop, and I'm not converting her into a carrier. Worst mistake Japan ever made. Was converting her into a carrier. She would have been more useful as a Yamato class battleship, and she'd have been serviced 2 years earlier.
But Fleet,
not necessarily.
If she's a battleship, we don't get really hot fox girls there.
Yeah, actually, you probably do. You probably do. It's just now a battleship instead.
Okay, I will concede. I probably won't build the follow-on to Shinano. Actually, let me just check. Question is, if she's laid down
to number 114.
Hang on.
She was cancelled at 30% in 42.
In that case, then I'm not stopping construction. I am finishing her. If she's begun at 30% in 42, I'm not stopping. Like, if she was 10%,
I'm pretty sure the reason she was cancelled though was the dockyard was needed.
I'm sorry. I'm winning. I can afford... and also, I hate to break it to you, I can pull a UK. And by that I mean, Japan has a very large fleet of trawlers, and other small vessels like them that are ocean-going. Like, in the short term, I can pull those vessels in.
Pretty sure they already had done that.
No, they've
already done that.
No.
Well...
It's why you basically get these wooden-hulled, almost sailboats with anti-submarine guns.
Well, okay, fair enough, but still, that's happening anyway. The thing is, of course, I'll have the knowledge to use them effectively. So we'll be forming up convoys. We'll move... So the H8Ks will take over frontline work, and the H6Ks will be moved exclusively to patrol. So every convoy will have a rotation of H6Ks operating from the various fleet air bases around it. So that basically we're forcing the subs to go to night attack only, which is obviously more difficult for them, since during the day they basically can't operate near the convoy without being spotted or forced to submerge, which means the convoy can basically limp away at 8 to 9 knots, which the subs can't follow when submerged without burning them. Well, not while... No, if the
Stuff like the Gators could do 12 knots.
Yes, but they can't do that. They can't do that for long. Not long enough to stick with a convoy all day, submerged. And they don't have snorkels. US subs don't get snorkels till after the war. So they can't just chug along at 12 knots for a full day. Not even for a quarter of a full day. It's not so much about sinking the the US submarines, it's denying... Obviously, there will still be sinkings, of course. More aircraft patrolling the region will mean more sinkings. And I probably will be bringing the... So, if I've got... So, the Tones will be with the battle line. I'll probably bring the older Kumas back. And what I'll do is I'll have the Kumas and other older cruisers that are catapult fitted. They will be leading, basically, patrol groups in the China Sea, independent of the convoys, with a bunch of older destroyers with hydrophones and depth charges, and then they'll be using their float plane to reconnoiter the area around them, try and find American submarines, and if not sink them, then at least keep them from reaching the convoy routes. Same thing around Japan proper. Lots of aircraft. This is the thing. Japan can absolutely fight an attritional delaying action against the US. You have to make sure, however, the supply lines are in place. The fuel, the tungsten, the steel. And you have to make sure that Japan's coastal shipping is not menaced. That is vital. Absolutely vital. Also, take Mutsu down to Guadalcanal and get her to shoot some things. For the sole purpose of firing off some of her ammunition. Or ideally, all of her ammunition and charges, so that she doesn't cook off and explode in 1943 from bad ammunition being held for too long in the magazines without being fired. Knight, people overestimate quite how long Japan was actually fighting its attritional war for. Like, Japan doesn't really go into desperation mode until basically the aftermath of Battle of Leyte Gulf. Like, Japan still has a fairly sizable, large, effective fleet up until Leyte Gulf. Then Leyte Gulf takes it all away. Heck, Philippine Sea in the middle of 1944 the US has an advantage, but Japan actually has a fair number of flight decks in that fight. And they are mostly full of aircraft. Admittedly, the pilots are horribly trained, but again, that's something we can change, and we've won the Battle of Midway in this timeline, so we've got even more of an advantage and an ability to train pilots. Like, this is the thing. Like, Japan's prowess in terms of raw naval potential is it's a slow decline. A very slow decline in terms of cruisers lost and other units lost until 1944. And then it falls off a fucking cliff. And this is something that surprises a lot of people because they go, Japan, Battle of Midway, that's it, it's over. And then they just get beaten harder at Guadalcanal. No, that's not quite how it works, actually. Everyone forgets that the Japanese traded at Guadalcanal fairly evenly.
Did they, though?
More evenly than people think. You've got the loss of
More evenly than people think, but
you've got the loss of Wasp and Hornet, which is 2 Japanese wins. You've got US cruiser losses and destroyer losses being chewed through. You've got the loss of the 2 Congos, but to be fair, the Congos were fairly badly used during Guadalcanal. And there is also the situation where there was a fair bit of luck involved in some of those engagements. Obviously, the one being... The one with luck being mainly the whole US cruisers happen to get within range of the Japanese ships to a point where the armor is ineffective. That was very much who sights who first. If the Congos had seen the Americans first, or, the Congos had some form of basic radar, yeah, that battle with the 2 Congos and everything else goes very, very, very different. Aggressively so, in fact. Foxo, yeah, Mike.
Mike again.
Fixed it.
Yep.
This is the thing. It's like Midway wasn't Japan turnaround moment. Midway was okay, we're even.
Yeah, Midway was Oh fuck! America's got its shit together way before we thought they would.
Yeah, and even then, Midway was a close-run thing. Again, a lot of luck involved. Like with most carrier actions of that part of the war.
It's going to be a case.
Only because only because the US Mark 14 was trash early on. Well, yes, that is true. A lot of capital ships would have been on the bottom if they hadn't. But I can use the foreknowledge of the US Mark 14 being trash to basically go, okay, we've got till about the end of 43 to sort our anti-submarine shit out. Let's get hull number 114 floated out. Let's get a launch. Let's get her floated out to be commissioned, and then let's use that dockyard space to crash build as many purpose-built anti-submarine corvettes as we physically can. She should be floatable out at 60%, I think. So that should be beginning of 43. So that means we've got 9 months to crash build corvettes, which is actually a fair amount of time.
Maybe.
I'm not even talking flower cast. I'm talking single gun, triple expansion steam engine, probably coal fired, basically to use Japanese coal reserves, even if it is shitty coal, rather than oil.
But oil's the thing they have. Where it makes sense for a very basic oil-fired engine that's optimized to run on very shitty crude oil.
I suppose, yeah.
Those existed.
No, that's true, but the difference is we need all the crude oil we can get. And we have
but
coal
they have all the crude oil they want.
No, the problem is it's in the Dutch East Indies.
Yeah, and if you've got a working convoy system, you can get it out of the Dutch East Indies.
We'll probably go with 2 variants. We'll go with 1 for convoy escort on the open sea between the Dutch East Indies and Japan, which will be oil-fired, and 1 which is coal-fired for working in Japan exclusively. Just to basically reduce dependence on oil usage as much as we can. You're forgetting nothing happens in isolation. No, I'm not. I don't doubt the USA will be taking responses, but I can't predict those responses. I can only say what I will do. You'll notice I've not said the war will go a certain way. I've just said this is what I will do. I'm basically putting a pin in this at the end of 43 because at that point I don't know. I'm just saying what I will do that is basically not going to result in much change as far as things are. Oh, this Discord is definitely having a moment today. Really having a moment.
Verily, indeed.
Okay, after a massive tangent where Fleet's basically gone on an entire spree,
Probably not Collingwood, I don't think, so at least not usually on Mondays.
what was that? What was the question?
Will we be doing Hoy later?
No, I will be finishing in half an hour. Because I do want to do.
No!
I do want to do.
No!
Why no?
Probably because she wants you to keep going, but.
Yeah, I waited
Oh,
4 hours for this, and you start late, and then you're like, "Oh, gonna end early."
Yeah.
No.
Look,
Unfortunately, these things are not stuff we can control.
Look, I need some me time this evening. All right.
Fair enough.
Because I didn't.
No, you don't. Who gave you that impression that you're allowed that?
Me, because it's my fucking show and I do whatever the hell I like. Right.
Counterpoint.
Well, you've got 16 more questions on Discord at least, but.
Where? I've lost where I was. Christ on a bike.
Yes, you should. Was that a Discord or YouTube they've just done?
I've still got to find.
Was that the whole Defense in Depth one?
I have still lost where I was. On Discord.
Right, so you've just done the defense in depth, and Brackman's just linked to where it was. So next should be a YouTube.
Okay, I think I'm nearly there. There we go. Yeah, YouTube was that. There was plans to build 650 Supermarine Spitefalls and 150 Supermarine Seafang Mark 31s. Were these to replace the early Seafires? I have no idea, Knight. To tell you the honest truth, not a clue. So, next is... Zubikaku, I'm going to pin that question, because if it's one about swapping Cunningham and the Italian World War II commanders, I have no idea how to answer that question. I don't know enough about Cunningham's command style, and I definitely don't know enough about any of his opposite numbers in the Italian Navy to even begin to answer that. You would have to have me and Dr. Clarke at least, and ideally me, Dr. Clarke and Drach, to answer that question properly. So I'm going to move on quickly.
Well, you put it this way: you're trading someone who could be argued to be the best commander of World War II navally for some inbred Italian retard.
Well, the Italians were the Italian admirals weren't stupid, but they were limited basically by the lack of fuel.
Also their leaders didn't exactly help.
Leadership.
Yeah,
but Cunningham.
I'm talking about the admirals. The Italian admirals weren't as shit as people give them credit, as people like to bash on them for, but they were limited. This is coming from Drach and Dr. Clarke.
It's just the way you misspoke.
Anyway. Since we don't have long and a lot more questions.
Your typical gunnery officer asks, do you think the introduction of the F-7F was a bit too late? Was it a good fleet defense aircraft? If the F-7F was introduced in late 44, what would have changed in terms of US Navy fighter lineup? You've basically got a fast interceptor, twin-engined aircraft, that would be able to respond to kamikazes fairly effectively.
Japan said American ship no go boom anymore when hit with plane.
Well, things will still get hit with plane, but...
Really?
And also, the F-7F, as Moe says, wasn't a fleet defense aircraft. It was, I think it was a dedicated night fighter for the Navy.
Well, no,
I'm not sure, though. I don't know that much about the F-7F, to be brutally honest with you.
It was later in its life used as a night fighter, but it was not designed as a night fighter. Yeah, long-range escort / multi-role strike fighter.
Yeah, therefore it's not a good fleet defense fighter. It's a good multi-role strike fighter. CJ, if HMS Dreadnought was preserved in the 1920s, what was she doing in World War II? And would she survive to the modern day? In World War II, she sits in Portsmouth, looking very pretty.
No, she doesn't.
Foxhill, they're not reactivating her.
She gets moved to Scapa Flow and used as a gunnery training ship.
No, she's not being reactivated, nor is she being moved.
What?
No
one said anything about reactivating.
Yeah, no, so, but the Royal Navy uses HMS Iron Duke as a gunnery training ship.
Yes, because that's...
She then gets bombed and is no longer able to do that.
Yes.
Which causes a lot of problems for the Royal Navy.
Yeah.
If they have a Dreadnought battleship sitting there, they're going to use it for training.
No, they are not. It's far too... No, they're not.
But it's a case of... Fleet. We're not talking about using it for combat. We're talking about using it to tell naval cadets, this is how
the guns
you don't
work.
Get pasted by the recoil of the guns.
You
this
can't.
Is how you elevate the
mechanism
the guns will not be fireable, and there will not be any ammunition. The 12-inch gun had been out of production.
Why would they not be fireable?
Because it would have been 20 years since they'd been fired.
Does not mean it's not fireable.
Fleet
kind of does a little bit, tiny bit.
It doesn't.
The Royal Navy reactivated World War I era 15-inch gun breaches for the monitors.
After far longer. being left around.
Yeah, but the difference is they've been left around in storage. Royal Navy storage. Not in a preserved not in the hands of a possibly newly created
Fleet,
preserved dockyard.
Fleet, we're not talking for breaches that were kept in storage. We're talking about the ones that we used for testing. And were just left on the testing grounds.
Dreadnought unlikely would get the Mikasa treatment. That's not really a thing Britain does.
No, they would
it's a case of
you'd get put in a dockyard.
And where are you getting the 12-inch ammunition from?
You don't even necessarily need the 12-inch ammunition. To be fair, you could stick something else on her, like they did Iron Duke and the others that were kept around.
Yeah, but it's also the case of you don't need 12-inch AP to fire what's the equivalent of a blank out of the guns.
Also, last I checked, they would still have a reasonable number of 12-inch rounds left.
Yeah.
The point I'm making is
for training purposes.
I feel like you two are taking massive liberties with the idea of taking a museum ship. It's a museum ship. It's at this point been a museum ship for 20 years. It's not an active combatant. It's probably not even a part of the Royal Navy anymore at this point.
It would be. But it's a case of... Can she be used to teach kids, essentially, cadets, to close the ammunition doors behind them? Can it be used to teach kids how to transport ammunition around the ship safely?
Well, yeah, but that's what I know Iron Duke gets damaged, but they're not going to drag Dreadnought out to do that job while Iron Duke's being repaired. That's just... It feels a bit... I feel like
to be fair, as soon as the war becomes a possibility, they might be doing this and have an extra crew training ship.
What?
Just to have people to do stuff.
It's a case of Fleet. Iron Duke, her entire underbelly gets flooded. She loses, at least, I think it's her midships and her aft super firing. Iron Duke's fucked, and they still bring her back in for to be a training ship.
Yes, they replace her aft 13.5 with a 5.25.
Yeah, but that's a ship that was already in service with the RN as a dedicated gunnery training ship.
Yeah, but it's a case of our training ship is fucked. We have a fully functional dreadnought.
She's not going to be fully functional.
No, compared to Iron Duke, she's fully functional. Because she's not on the bottom of Scapa Flow.
Yeah, but...
the only reason they're able to reactivate and repair Iron Duke to the point where they could use her guns for training is the fact that she sank in shallow water.
Keep in mind, she had this damage in 1940.
Yeah, but...
And was then just kept there and was just left there. Because it's now a harbour ship.
Yeah, but why would you risk one of your very valuable, at this point, 20 years cultural artifacts? Like, when you've got a piece of shit that you can just
Because it's
pump
currently... Because it's somewhere that you can probably reasonably get people to, and basically show them how to do stuff in a ship without being at risk too much. Don't need to move it anywhere. Just leave it there and just... have the cadets do stuff there.
Well, that's slightly better compared to the ridiculous idea of moving it to Scapa Flow.
I don't think Fox was
I do think they would move to Scapa Flow, though, so she doesn't get bombed.
I don't think she'd move to Scapa Flow because Iron Duke was in Scapa Flow and was bombed.
Yeah, but they're not going to have her be in Portsmouth. That's getting bombed regularly.
Well, they're not going to be moving her to Scapa Flow at best.
But she's going to be somewhere like Dublin,
as I was saying, war is war.
Merseyside.
You use whatever you've got.
Yeah.
If you have a ship that is perfectly capable of doing at least basic training and basic drills for, assume something has happened in this part of the ship, what do you do?
Or even just have the cadets leave
better than nothing.
And then
hell yeah, a barrack ship.
So when it goes, say they're training for, I don't know, to be on Barham, when they're asleep and off shift and the ship goes to combat alert, what the fuck do you do? Like, that sort of training. Because how many ships have been lost to poor damage control?
At least 3 Royal Navy ones. Looking at you, Ark Royal. Yeah, like and the fact that a number of Mark IVs were reactivated.
One
Like,
singular.
No, there were others also undergoing reactivation, but they never really were used because they realized, well, Germany's not going to get to us at this point.
No, the British Army went, stop being fucking morons. Have a cruiser.
But anyway, moving on then.
What was next then?
War crimes?
No war crimes.
No, those are later in the questions.
You know, men never ask you what your favorite.
What? What did she
That
say?
was a brilliant point that it cut out, so I have no clue. The whole Wolf 359 thing, Collingwood, almost certainly not going to be got to unless Fleeting shoots at the end. Like,
so that's that. That's that. That's that. So that was a question from YouTube. So, Chris, say an Imperial Star Destroyer gets low enough into a US battle fleet in 1945 where the ships can shoot it. No, I didn't.
you did.
Where?
What's worse, the Japanese 25mm or the German 37mm?
The German 37mm, without a shadow of a doubt. The Japanese 25 can at least do rapid fire, and it is actually kind of lethal within a very short range.
I'm presuming they're referring to the original 37 and not the later ones.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In development.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, yeah. The 37 is awful.
Stephen Mayer asks, could the USA have gone the Commonwealth route with their territories? And what would that do for defense planning? No, that's not how the US deals with its territories. The whole point of being a US territory is that is that eventually, long term, you're integrated as a state at some point down the line. Happened with Alaska, happened with Hawaii, and it will probably happen with Puerto Rico at some point.
Maybe.
Maybe, eventually. Like I said, that's the whole point. The US doesn't think of its territories as overseas possessions. It thinks of them as integrated parts of the United States of America. They're not independent. They're not puppets. They don't govern themselves. At least no more than any US state does. In fact, they govern themselves less than a US state does. They have less freedom. So it doesn't really work because it's not something the US would ever do, and it doesn't really fit or change that much. Chris asks, say an Imperial Star Destroyer gets low enough into a US battle fleet in 1945 where the ships can shoot it, who wins? The Star Destroyer wipes them out in 5 seconds flat with a few blasts of its turbo laser.
The Star Destroyer's wake sinks the entire fucking fleet.
Like, honestly, if we're not even using turbo lasers here, that's a waste of good Tabana gas.
Yeah, just use the TIE fighters, like, just
not even. It's not even funny how dead that US battle fleet is.
Yeah. A single Star Destroyer is a force to conquer planet Earth. Just through sheer force of...
Don't go that far.
No, just through sheer force of, we will turbo laser anyone who resists.
Force to surrender, perhaps. Conquer, not quite.
Force to surrender is basically conquest.
Conquer implies to hold.
They can do it.
No, they
not
can't.
with what's on a single Star Destroyer.
Not with only 10,000 stormtroopers.
You just have the Star Destroyer glassing cities if anyone resists.
That's how resistance is created.
Yeah, but the majority of the planet.
like,
Yeah, but it'll hold the planet for long enough for more forces to arrive.
Potentially.
yeah, but
And yes,
this
as Collingwood
wasn't a
pointed out,
case
an
of
amusing one could be amusing of just uses the tractor beam, picks up ship, drops ship.
Yeah, that would sound about right. I mean, heck, just pull the AT-ATs up to the edge of the hangar bay and use their guns. Like, just fire out of the bottom of the hangar.
Like, yeah, it's just not even a contest. Also, I genuinely don't think the US guns would be able to hurt a Star Destroyer.
No,
because-
you can't even touch it. You cannot even touch it.
I don't think they get through the armor. Nope. Nope, Discord cut out. Even assuming the Star Destroyer is being generous and turns its...
Yeah, Discord is really having issues today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to end it actually 15 minutes earlier than I thought it was. Because Discord is just... We can't keep going. It's been getting worse and worse as we've gone on. Sorry for this somewhat shorter ramblings today. But we have had issues with Discord and a few other things besides. Next week will probably be a normal, longer ramblings. And I might do something tomorrow to make up for the shorter ramblings. We'll see. Thank you for coming, folks. I hope you've all enjoyed.